One.
Hello, you guys, and welcome to the Woman's Cave. Huh.
You see?
That wasn't it. Thank you for letting me have it. Yeah. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I let you have welcome to the Woman's Cave.
I know.
I'm Jade.
And I'm Winona. Dude, we remembered right after Welcome to the Women's Cave. Can we high-fiving it out? High-fiving it out. Yes.
Yeah, that deserves that.
Normally, right after we do high-fiving it out, I look to see the expression on the person's face.
Well, yeah, but she had to dial in today because, she's super busy, which you understand.
She's like, wait. First of all, I just want to say something really kind of cool. She is the voice of one of our favorite books.
She's the voice of many books. But, okay, we're not going to go. We're talking about books right now.
Our books.
So we have the And I Thought series and the Misfit Guys. I'm not even going to go through that.
Yes.
No. And then we have the 25 Hottest.
Okay.
And you can check out Just Right Life on Facebook. Yeah, so you can find all of that on www.andwethought.com.
See, this is what you act like when you're recuperating.
Yeah, I am recuperating, so it's not bronchitis.
Oh, you're almost over it. Anyway, You're not here to hear about us. You're here to hear from our wonderful guests. Wonderful guests, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, this is CJ Critt.
Okay. Wow, she did that so
She did that so concisely.
I know, and she put on her professional voice. I love it. I love your professional voice. You're the voice of many of my audiobooks, and I appreciate you coming on the show.
Well, great. Now, I've been doing audiobooks for about 24 years, and before that, I was a working voice actress in New York City when a fellow colleague was walking down the street with me one day after a commercial audition, and when I said, well, where are you going now? And he explained he was reading audiobooks, which back then I thought were strictly for the visually impaired, like, for people who literally couldn't see, and I didn't realize that it was the beginnings of a growing industry, which is now almost more popular than the print book industry. So people, of course, back then were taking commutes and getting on their treadmills and folding laundry and all these types of things where maybe it would be great to have their hands free, but listen to a book. So it, as an industry, has just grown and grown and grown, and there's lots more opportunity for new readers, which is how I met, I think, a previous guest of yours, Jo Sands, a really lovely person who I always thought had a velvet voice and was a hard worker. And right away, she got good results from the auditions that she put out through the various audition websites, and has been working ever since. So I pride myself on a lot of new students coming to me who are at the beginning of their audiobook journey. And usually I can tell right away if someone has a good storytelling quality, an excellent voice, and then the other ingredient, lots of hard work and persistence. So that's a little introduction for you.
Yeah,
I love your introduction. And yes, Jo Sands is the voice of one of our audiobooks.
Actually, she's literally going to be the voice of the And I Thought series. Mine is like one book. I don't know. I want to ask like somebody else for that one book, but
I don't know. She probably will be. If she sticks in there with us, we are sticking in there with her. And wow, that was a wonderful introduction. 24 years.
How do you keep your voice going for 24 years?
Well, you don't get up and do this usually every day, 8 hours a day. I think a few people do, but for some of us, it's more of like a calling than simply an industry or something that we do for income. So when it's something you really care about, I think of it as sort of like going to the theater. So if you're going to go to the theater, you're going to give 2 hours of tremendous excellence and performance. And so typically most audiobook sessions are not going to be 4, 5, 6, 7 hours long because your voice gets fatigued and you're not going to sound the same at 5 p.m. as you did at 10 a.m. So ideally prepare as if you're going to the theater. And so there's a reason opera is not at 10 a.m. Those opera singers, they're not going to get up and sing at 10 a.m. Are you nuts? So ideally, some people do like to work first thing in the morning because just they're morning people. But I think of a voice as like an instrument, so it takes time for it to warm up. And if you exercise or drink tea or coffee or get out and take a walk with your dogs, or you go to the gym or you do yoga, any of those things is going to help your voice become more fluid and flexible and ready then to go to the stage. And our stage in an audiobook world is that tiny little, with the microphone, the sound booth. Sometimes you get to go to a professional studio outside your home, but more and more people are tasked with, this didn't happen when I started. More and more actors are expected to have a home studio. And of course, technology being what it is, has made that much more affordable. Before you might need to spend $10,000, $20,000 for soundproofing and the right equipment. And you can spend a fraction of that now and have working, competent, professional level equipment. But it still is not easy to get a great sound in your home because, the air conditioning's going, the dogs are barking, someone's working on their motorcycle across the street. Very difficult to control all those ambient and extra sounds. But once people figure out how to do it, then they're ready to come to me and get their skills together so that they can, go to the next level of being the voice of an author. Or if they wrote it themselves, and they're not going to pay someone else to do it, then learn how to put their best foot forward. Because I have had many fans come to me and say, "Oh, I can't listen to this author do their work anymore. Thank goodness, they finally wised up and hired someone else." And then sometimes an author is excellent at being his or her own sort of interpretive muse. But I think you can't assume that someone can write and then automatically they're going to be the best actor storyteller for their material. And there's many actors who are great storytellers who could not write. I mean, if you told them to write the book, it would never happen. Fortunately for me, I've been writing and acting for many, many years. So I write full-length musicals, and they're very diverse, sometimes really silly and funny, and other times more serious. And I'm working on one right now called The Pollinators, about it's a little bit like Little Shop of Horrors, which was set in the 80s. I'm sorry, it was written in the 80s, but actually set in the 50s when they would have those bad black and white B movies where wasp women would take over the world. And this was about a man-eating plant. That was Little Shop of Horrors. And so in my musicals, bees go amok and mutant bees start killing people madly on a college campus when they thought they were going to solve a big bug crisis. Instead, the bees are sabotaged. And then we have mutant bees and military weapons nuts and an unhappy suitor. And so we have many funny villains. And then two young people, and Chloe Edgecombe, the smartest girl in school, who's like a little scientist, and no one takes her really very seriously because she's a girl, and she has to sort of prove herself by being the smartest person, and she's going to solve this problem. And she has a lab partner who's just sort of crazy gaga in love with her. And of course, being that he's young and impetuous, mistakes happen, and then they have to try to put everything back, put it all right again. So it's a very funny kind of a B-movie musical because it starts in the uptight 50s and it transitions into the swinging 60s. So those shows are kind of where my heart is. If I'm not working in the studio or being the voice of an author, coaching new people, I'm writing wacky shows. And that's just one of the many that's just the kind of the newest baby of a Western musical called those Muscle Bound Cowboys from Snake Pit Gulch, which is an all male musical that's going to be produced out in California. My collaborators are several guys from New York, and then I wrote a musical called Elsie, Janice, and the Boys about the female Bob Hope of World War I. That's an actual American super trooper who went to the front to try to bring cheer and entertain the boys, and went to the hospitals to entertain the wounded, and really was quite a hero that nobody knows about. 100 years later, most people have never heard of her unless they're history buffs. So sometimes, like I say, sometimes they're serious and sincere, and then other times they're just wacky. But yeah, those are some of the things that I do when not in the studio, when not doing something.
How do you find the time?
Well, I don't, because I've been able to work mostly as a writer or an actor in my field. I don't have to 9 to 5, selling insurance or being a full-time teacher elsewhere. So you just have to have the discipline that you would have if you had to go to work to do your creative stuff. You just have to apply yourself and, make deadlines and make things happen, even if somebody isn't cracking the whip or telling you must. That's the only way as an artist. You complete things. So as I tell my students, I'll say, if it was just fun, we call it show friends, but it's show business because it's a business. So when you learn to do the business, sometimes people are really good at the business. They're not even all that talented. But because they get the business, they start working. They start understanding what they have to do to be competitive, to have a chance, to stick out among all the other talented, super competitive people who want those jobs. So learning the business is a big part of, being a player. It's like if you want to play at the major league level, well, it's more than just your skills. You have to know how to conduct yourself in and out of the dugout. You know how to, have to be a team player so you can get up to that plate. So being in show business, not so different from being on a big team. Everybody is sort of a superstar in their own, but you also have to learn how to get along with other people, make friends, don't backstab people, help others, because then maybe they'll help you. So, you learn all those skills. Usually you have a better chance of having success in the career and being a nicer person, having friends, being someone people like to work with. Because that's really true too. People can be really talented, but so unhappy or so difficult that people are like, oh, I heard him once. That was enough. They were great, but oh, never again. So, that follows people, along. And typically in recording work, you're there such a short amount of time that there's usually nothing very negative that happens. In theater, when people work intimately for weeks, the cuckoo pants stuff can happen, and people get insecure, and they get defensive, or they just get physically sick, because a lot of times people working dancing and singing for hours don't realize how much stamina that takes, or the person right next to you coughed on you, and now you got it. So there are those issues too that can kind of sabotage a great performance. But most of the time, it's a balance of the things you inherited from your parents, which could be things like work ethic, a nice speaking voice. Some parents really model and really demand that their kids, speak well or articulate, or, at least do it for Sunday school and school. Like, there might be like, hey, there's casual speech, but now you got to do it for real. And so some parents give that as a gift to their kids. And then sometimes parents are really hard on their kids. The kids, after therapy, also realize, well, hey, I have discipline. I know how to get up and go to work and make a living and make it happen and not make excuses. All that really helps you in show business. If you quit making excuses, quit being defensive, quit blaming others, then you have a much better chance of, being a good actor, having a great voice, and, getting the band to work with you. So all those personal skills and integrity skills really help people too. And you don't always know that. You just want to be in the show. I just want to be on television. I just want to go to that video game thing and do all the voices. And a lot of people come to me with that kind of ambition, but not a realistic grounding that gives them a chance to actually make it. So I never like poo-poo on somebody's dream, but I am a big reality checker about like, well, you could take some classes with me, but it's a lot of work, and you're going to have to, a big list of things to do. And if they're not ready for that, or they are talented but immature, or dreamy-eyed but really don't have it together, and I don't have to be mean to them. Like I always say, this is on air, I won't fill in the blank expletive on you, because the world's going to do that. You don't have to do that to yourself. And you don't have to hire, teachers, people, mentors to be cruel or harsh. They can be realistic with you, because that's actually a favor to tell people the truth. But you don't have to be like, oh, you have no talent. Oh, darling, go home. If I can't discourage you, then that's good. Like those mean, I don't want to be that kind. I'll play those characters. They're fun. I don't want to be that person. So, when people take a class, I think, they come, they want support, they want reassurance that their dreams are approachable. But I try to give them realistic guidelines and kind of guideposts. Like if you're not getting anywhere near those guideposts, and you come several times and you're not getting any better, well, maybe you want to invest your education dollars in something else, or maybe don't buy all that equipment yet, because that might be. So I try to gently steer people towards reality, but also nobody can keep someone out of doing something if they're just dedicated and that's their passion and they're going to do it. But I just don't like people. I personally don't like when people come in. I've seen them other studios where maybe I'm a guest teacher. Oh, I'd love to come in and take privates, but I just don't have enough money. And they don't have enough money, and you shouldn't be encouraging them to. So I think there are places that will, line their pockets with other people's dreams. I don't like to do that. And I know that, Joe would probably back me up on this. I mean, what we do is try to be very reasonable, help people where they are. You're a beginner. Okay, that's where you are. You're really experienced and you have an agent and you're working, but you don't know how to do this. Well, that's where you are. So we try to meet people where they are and then lift them up 2 or 3 steps if they come to a couple of workshops, so that by the time they leave, they have demo quality, meaning broadcast quality, sounds really great. The boo-boos are gone, the bad exhalations and all that weird stuff, that's all been edited out. And we have a really top studio pro there that gives that as kind of part of the gift to the students. So by the time they leave, they might have 2 or 3 really top samples of their work at no additional cost, just from coming to class, just from learning and getting coached and making improvements. So we like that kind of progress. And some people take 2 or 3 classes and start working. Some people take several and their progress is slower, but nobody is, shunned out the door and no one's forced to come back. So I like that kind of open door policy. And that way, most of the people who come become our friends. And it's a small, but very warm little community. I'm really, it's exciting to be part of that because I'm still working doing audiobooks, and I'm still now I go up to the anime studios here in North Dallas and do character voices for them, and that's really fun. But years ago, when I was making a nice living in this business, I did lots of commercials and industrials and the things that pay very well, but are a little bit soul killing. I mean, there's just how much excitement can you have jumping up and down for, the JCPenney Easter sale? I mean, it's good, but you just, you're grateful to do it, but it isn't the same as literature, and it's not the same as doing a book that, makes everyone cry and laugh and think about things. So when you can take your talent and do something that you also feel has integrity or lives beyond you, or 20 years later you still get fan mail saying, oh, I heard this, it was hilarious, gosh, that got us through a really tough time after my mom's surgery, that's always great. That's what you want to do, is not only entertain but have impact. So when you can do that, that's a real gift as well. And sometimes, more recently, I've been doing some nonfiction books, some that have a religious and spiritual component to them. And that's been a nice education for me because growing up Catholic, we never quoted the Bible. And we really didn't know how do you attribute these quotes? So, I did something for Christian audio and another for a lady who's a minister and had written several books. So, you're never too old to learn something new and appreciate something different. And that's one of the nice things that an audiobook career, or even a sideline. Some of my people have other jobs. One lady she works in HR at a huge hospital, and she's terrific. I was like, Whoopi Goldberg, sit down. Jillian Williams is coming. I mean, she is so great. She's got a cousin on Broadway, and now she's doing audiobooks, and it's like, I couldn't believe someone that talented was not doing something, like always doing theater on the side or community. No, just kind of been sitting on it for years, and she's probably in her 40s. So she's like now believing in herself and getting a lot of wonderful response. And because she has a solid day job career, she doesn't have to struggle like, a kid right out of college trying to make it. So she's really well positioned. This is a wonderful time for African-American voice artists. There's more opportunity than ever before. There are more great authors than ever before who are getting recognized, getting sold, getting an opportunity to really develop a big audience. And it's been very exciting for me to help several artists grow in that area. Some were always good actors, always acting. And some, like this friend Jillian, because I think of her as my friend now, she had a completely different career and just kind of knew, had an itch to be creative, but didn't really know what she had. And just, I make people do creative writing exercises to develop different voices. And so some people are fun and creative. She really writes at a level, it could be a one-woman show, and she writes these things at 10 and 15 minutes. So I love to create an environment where people feel safe to be that special, that creative, that joyful in this form of expression they didn't even know they had. Well, they kind of know, but they tamp it down because otherwise you couldn't go and do that HR job for 20 years. You just couldn't if you knew all along, what I really am is a star. What I really am is a singer. What I really am is a comic actress, genius. And yet sometimes it's exciting when people find out in their middle years, I am those things. And this school, this mentor, this teacher, this theater believes in me and then gives them a safe place to grow. So that's part of the joy of being older doing this now. When I was younger, I just tried to get this jobs myself because, I was competitive. And now I'll compete for things that I can get a little more, maybe more limited level of what's appropriate. But the fun of helping others find their voice and have confidence and see them grow has really been great. So that's something I want to encourage to anyone who's listening is that whatever your passion is, take it seriously, at least to the point where if you made a doctor's appointment, you wouldn't just cancel willy-nilly. And if your best friend was coming in from out of town and you said, okay, we're going to dinner, I don't care what else, I don't care if it's a tornado, we're going. You would just really make a commitment. And that's the commitment that you have to make to your creative life, is you have to decide it's just as important as getting your teeth cleaned. It's just as important as seeing a best friend. And make that hour to take a class, sit down and write your book, take a brisk walk and sing when you're away from other people. No one's going to judge you, but find a place and a system for yourself where being creative and celebrating your muse, whatever it is, painting, fancy cooking. I mean, whatever it might be that really gives you joy and is creative and it helps you express yourself, take it seriously. It's really worth it. It's worth the balance it gives you if you have a different part of your life. And then you might find it's a sideline or it's your career. But if you don't honor that impulse and go after it, then, then you'll just wonder. So I always say, give it a shot. I mean, there are other interesting disciplines I'd love to do. I'm never going to be a ballet dancer, but I took classes when I was younger, and I'm more graceful because I took those classes. But I have no core strength. I cannot stand on my toes for even seconds. Just forget it. But I'm glad I took those classes, and I'm never going to be a tap dancer. But a zillion years ago, I'm glad I took those classes. So, you get older, you might not be able to do all the physical things you did, but it's amazing what you can do. So, I just tell people it's never too late to celebrate your muse and figure out, let her speak to you and figure out what that is.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I feel inspired.
I have one question before we go.
Oh, I have one too. So
okay, go ahead. No, Jay
you first.
first.
No, you first. Well, no.
Okay, I was on your website and I saw you have a picture with Common. And I just wanted to know how that happened.
Well, I was at Radio Disney for 15 years as a staff writer and voice artist. And so back in the day, they would often have, visiting artists would come down to the lobby. Occasionally, they would do little mini, like if they weren't big hits yet, they'd do mini concerts for us. And then that would encourage some of the people who were in program, which I was not. I couldn't tell you this is going on the radio or this isn't. But we had programming people there. So if the programming people thought the little bands were, hey, that's pretty good, several country acts came through. And nobody who ever played in the lobby wasn't good. They were all great. But then more famous people like Erykah Badu and Common, they might come and just sign autographs or do picture opportunities. Well, Erykah, she would not do pictures with you, but she would give you her picture, and she was very lovely to me. And done some lovely community charitable work. And so once I acknowledged that and she realized I knew something about her besides being an artist, then she was, very, very friendly and welcoming. But he was just great. I mean, he was coming on both as a music artist and an actor. And I mentioned that to him just, that I really respected that he was able to navigate both worlds. And he was just could not have been more gentlemanly and graceful about all that. So that's why that was that picture that day. And he was fine with us taking pictures and being friendly. He was totally into that. So he was really graceful about that. But that's how it would happen. Like he was one of the, bigger fish that came through, but we did see a lot of people, and it was a very fun job. That was my day job, but I was only part-time, and being that I was a writer, anywhere I had a laptop, I could write for the company and then, email my work in. So it was a privilege to have that level of flexibility. It was not a lucrative job. It wasn't full-time. I didn't get my husband ended up there full-time, didn't get the benefits he got, but by being a spouse, it all worked out. So, it was great to have it. And then they closed the entire station and studio in North Dallas several years ago, which was hard on all of us. But again, I had always spent my life freelancing and doing a lot of different things. So, life goes on and other creative projects go in. Absolutely. So was there anything else, ladies, before we call it?
Yes, I have one final question. Where can people check you out and your classes that you referred to several times on this? And we would really like people to check them out if they were interested.
Yes, well, probably, cjcritt.com is my website. And I know that my email and probably even my cell phone number is all sprinkled throughout that. But certainly if people wanted to inquire about the two kind of audiences I think would probably be interested would be voice talent who think, oh gosh, I'd like to branch out into narration and I'd like some expert coaching and mentoring before I hang up my shingle and say, hey, I'm doing this now. So I do works via Skype with a number of remote clients around the country. And so when people say, well, I'm not in North Dallas, which if they were or they were nearby, I do really very fun, creative in-house workshops at Reel to Reel Studios, usually a couple times a month. Like we'll have two in April, one the 20th and one the 27th. So right around the kind of Eastertide. So on the Saturdays before those kind of sacred days, we'll be having some workshops. And then those are held at this Broadcast Quality Studio. So people come for it's like a half a day, 4 hours usually. And we really work the whole time. So they're in and out of the studio. We do coaching. They write creative pieces. And that's called Narrate Like a Pro. And so I share the billing there with Dave Buell at Reel to Reel Studios. And that's where I met Joe and also some other very talented North Texas artists. So people contact me if they're like in, California or Massachusetts and they want to work on Skype. And then we just do like hourly sessions at our mutual convenience. And then if people are in the area, they can come to the workshop. And then also sometimes people in the area, like I have a friend, she's a mom and she lives in Plano, Texas. This is a long drive, maybe an hour from her to me and back and forth. And so with her children, that extra 2 hours in the car just almost is a deal breaker. But she will send me a little PayPal thing and then we'll work on Skype, and she's Russian. So she's got a fairly pronounced accent. And whenever she has an audition, I help her try to sound, either more American or just she was like, did the winter take your son? So, you have to kind of mitigate that. You can't speak so Russian, Mila. So anyway, we work on taking some of her Russian sounds away, but she's an absolutely darling actress. And that's another example of someone who just, when she needs a little coaching on accent reduction or audition prep, she contacts me as well. So if people want to contact me through just basically my name at Mac, CJ Critt at Mac.com. It's 2 T's on the Critt. And it's all with C's, CJ, CRITT.
Thank you so much for coming on today. We really appreciate it. And you guys check out Miss Critt and her wonderful workshops that she's having. And you can always check out what your ladies are doing on www.andwethought.com. Really, well, no, that I was doing it in my professional voice. Y'all knew you heard it.
Yes, I did. Sorry for trying.
Well, thank you, ladies.
Okay, go ahead. Finish it up, Jade.
So you can check out everything that we're doing on www.andwethought.com. Remember, you guys, that wisdom is all around you if
you're open to finding it and accepting it. So peace and love, you guys, from Winona
and Jade. Bye-bye.